welcome to episode 6 of the Martial Arts Podcast. This is the podcast that takes a look at the stories and lives of the people involved in the world of martial arts. I am your host. My name is Adam Bachler. I'm an author. I'm a blood donor. I'm a guy who likes to shoot zombies with paintballs in the face. But most importantly, I am a martial artist. Before I go any further, this podcast is supported by martial artists just like you, so rate, download, subscribe on iTunes or at adambachler.com. You can like the Martial Arts Podcast on Facebook. Let me know how I'm doing. Ask me questions. Maybe I can answer some on the next show, or let me know if you have any great ideas for who you'd like to hear on the next episode of the Martial Arts Podcast. So one of the things that I wanted to do on this month's episode is apologize for the lack of podcast over the last couple months. I wanted to explain what I've been up to since I put out the last episode. I haven't been exactly slacking, alright, so just hear me out here. First, you've probably noticed that I didn't say this podcast was sponsored by Metamora Martial Arts. I decided back in August, when the last episode came out, that I wanted to focus on my day job, on this podcast, and other personal interests. I want to run a martial arts school someday, but I've decided that that time is not now. And my last classes I held at the end of September. Also in September, I was traveling around quite a bit for my day job. I went to Las Vegas for about 36 hours for work and then was in Boston the next week for the Inbound conference for any of you listeners who might be into inbound marketing. And I must have caught something on the plane coming home from Boston because about 10 days after I got home, I got real sick with what was called the enterovirus. And when I finally figured out what I had, I Googled it. And it looked like it had killed some kids, and I was like, oh my gosh. But the thing forced me to miss a wedding I was supposed to be the best man in. It kept me home from a funeral of a friend who had died, and I'd known him for like 20 years, so it was basically just the worst thing. And then once I started to shake the virus from my system, my body experienced all sorts of weird aches and pains and other weird symptoms. So, I spent the last couple weeks just getting healthy and regaining strength and all that, and, working out and doing my DDP yoga that I do on a regular basis was a real chore, but I'm happy to say that now I'm back in good health, I'm back at full strength, and I'm feeling pretty good. This month I sat down with Sensei Matthew Schell. He runs the Tora Hakatsuro-kan Martial Arts Academy in Morton, Illinois. I first got to know Mr. Schell when he started coming to a few Tai Chi Chuan classes with Steve Aldis, and you can listen to that episode on an earlier podcast that I did. Mr. Schell and I got to be pretty good friends, and now I'm honored that he considers me part of his extended martial arts family. He talks a little bit about that in this podcast, just how he feels, like martial artists are really part of his family. He invites me to his special events. I've gone over and done some Chanbara training with him. He's invited me to his holiday parties, and I'm just really excited, and I feel humbled that he asked me to do that. As a martial artist, that's him more as a person, but as a martial artist, he's the real deal. Let me tell you. Like Eddie Parker talked about on episode 3, Mr. Schell talks about starting his training when he was a child at a young age of 5, but he makes an interesting point in this podcast that I want to highlight here before we get started, that despite starting training as a kid, he doesn't think he really started training until he enlisted in the service when he was doing some training overseas, which he talks about a little bit here. We also talk about how he's trying to keep the traditional aspects of martial arts alive, and his views on some things may be seen as controversial, or they might even surprise you, but I'll let him speak for himself. Enjoy the interview. So we're here with Matt Schell, and doing the Martial Arts Podcast with him. So I guess we can get started, I'll ask an obvious question. What brings you to martial arts? How did you get started?
Well, I actually... I got started when I was about 5 years old, and my grandfather, he never had a son, and so I was kind of like the son he never had, and he was very much involved in judo, jiu-jitsu, boxing. He was a Golden Glove boxer back during World War II, and so he, whether I liked it or not, he started my training when I was real young, the stuff that you would do with a 5-year-old and stuff. But then as it progressed, as I got older, intensity and everything. And so at the time, I can't say that I loved it at all. I remember I was wanting to ride my bike, out with my friends out there, and I'm in the backyard, learning how to fall, and and he was very, very old school, so he hurt you.
Now, what year was this? To kind of put it into some context.
About 1974, 75.
Okay.
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't wear any uniforms, nothing like that, so it wasn't even cool. It was just like I'm out there. But looking back on that, I'm so glad that happened, that he forced me to do that, because then, when I left home at 17, went into the U.S. Army, and I definitely continued. By that, it was ingrained in me. And so, my first overseas duty assignment, I'm looking for, and it wasn't hard because up at the local, on post or gymnasium, they had boxing, wrestling, martial arts. And so, I found a home, boom, right then, and continued on my training. And, I've been doing it ever since. And it's like life without it. I can't even, it's part of my life. And it started that seed that my grandfather, planted. That I wasn't grateful back then, but I'm going to tell you, by the time I joined the service, I was very happy that I had done that and went through that. So
now, where did you get deployed to?
Well, my first overseas assignment, I was lucky enough to get Germany, and got to see a lot of things, do a lot of things. I was there during the Cold War. I was there when the wall came down. I was one of the guys that guarded Romeo in India. So before it even hit national news, we were watching the defections go on. I'm 17 years old, and I'm watching people, defect, what we called pot hangers, illegal border crossings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming across, and so it was one of those things where you're freezing your butt off maybe in the winter out there pulling roving guard, and you're not appreciating what's going down. But then now when you look back, and it's like, wow, I was part of history. I was there. Where I was stationed is now wax museums up in those towers, And so, and one of my students that we just took on a little while back, he spent 22 years over there. And as it turns out, he was there when I was. Didn't know each other at the time. He was in a different part of Europe, but we can relate a lot of the old stories, especially the martial arts tournaments and the demonstrations that we put on and off base and stuff. And he knew my old teacher, and so it's pretty cool,
Yeah.
So.
What, when you were a kid, you were saying you were a kid and you were like in your backyard doing falls and stuff like that. What are your friends saying at that time?
Why do you got to do that? Why can't you go, we want to go down to the woods, we want to do this, do that, they weren't too, one of them came, he was a little keen, but, this hurt. Oh, I don't want to do that. And so, they'd go off and leave you.
Mm-hmm.
And so there you are, and it wasn't like it was an all-day deal, but, there'd be, really back then, an hour, 2 hours, he's putting you through this stuff. He's going to make you a man, It was so just the way I was brought up. You had to do this. And, the more you didn't want to and you tried to fight it, I'd just get in more trouble. Mm-hmm. So it was a forced upon thing, unlike what you would do today. Today, like I have 5-year-olds that they hit that plateau, and then the parents just like, oh, okay, well, you can quit.
Yeah.
There's no guidance like that. Well, mine was overkill, but it was my family were immigrants, came over Ellis Island from Germany, and it's just a different mindset. And so, but it shapes you, and it did. And here I am today, with my own school, and it's just like, who would have ever thought? So I think it's that, it's that seed that Granddad put in me. And so.
I'll probably hop around here and there about different points of your life story. But you talked about the school a little bit. Is this your first time having your own place?
Out on the public sector, yes. I mean, I had a school in the back of my home where I could teach up to 8 guys, and did that for quite a while. And then I had taught in like your village courts, and what's the other place we just came from? United Stars.
Academy,
yeah. So teaching out of the health clubs and that type of stuff, and it just wasn't for me, really.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted to have, a school where people could come and they get the aesthetics, not only just the instruction, but the aesthetics, and I think it means a little bit more, to a lot of people when they walk in and you actually have your own school. They kind of second rate you when you're teaching somewhere else out of a, well, if you were that good, why don't you have your own school type deal? And to be honest, some of those students you wouldn't want anyway. But there are other students, like myself even, unless I know that instructor, I'm probably going to go to, walk in and look at a school and see what history is on the wall and just see what it's all about. And I can kind of tell when I walk through that door,
Mm-hmm. It's hard to do that in a community center or a health club or whatever.
It is. And so, my ultimate goal was to have a place. And not too big. I never want to get too big for the britches, because, like I said, this, for me, it's a lifestyle. And, I'm so grateful for my teachers, what they've, bestowed upon me, all the knowledge. And, I don't want it to die with me. I want this to carry on. So I wanted to make sure when I did get a school that I could easily afford it with my day job. I very much believe in having a day job and not being a full-time martial arts instructor. Not that it's just not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're out there, but what I have found in my life of seeing is, I'm in a prime situation because I can easily afford my location without having to water down or do things that otherwise I wouldn't do to keep a student,
Mm-hmm.
So that's worth its weight in gold to me. Because I think sometimes you do need to thin the dojo. You can't have the wrong person. One person can spoil the pot.
Yeah.
We've already had that. I had to kick a student out of here. And that was the first time ever. But, and it wasn't, I talked to my teacher about it, and it was the only thing we could do, really. And there wasn't that worry that, oh my God, I'm going to lose that month's tuition. How are we going to make it? Mm-hmm. I never want to get into that spot. So I call it old school. I'm probably one of your only schools around in these parts that demote people when they don't deserve the rank, So
how does that go over with people?
Well, the reality is, how many have I demoted? None.
Yeah.
But that nail of shame on the wall and that threat factor that, and I give them every opportunity. But, a lot of times, especially with the kids, they'll work real hard to their next belt. And as we teach here that this builds upon itself, and you can't don't let your basics go, because your basics are what you're going to grasp if you become a black belt, a Yodansha, you'll return to those basics. That is your core foundation. And no matter how many fancy techniques you learn, kata you learn, whatever, if you lose your basics, you've lost everything. Okay? You have to be able to weather the storm. And to do that, you have to have a strongly rooted foundation, your basics. So what happens with these kids sometimes is, boy, they'll really give it 110% effort, and they'll just impress the heck out of me, and blaze through the promotion test. They've got it down. You're so proud of them and everything. And then a few months go by and they start letting the stuff go. Maybe they're working on, the next belt's standards, or maybe not in some cases. And then when you see them, it's like, whoa, what happened? You were so good at this, Well, when was the last time you studied this waza or this kata? Well, I don't know. At least they're honest. When they're young, they're honest, Especially the 5-6-year-olds. Do you practice at home? No. They usually blame it on the parents. And so what I do in those instances is, we put that nail of shame, because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's maybe something I picked up in the military, where the way they would, punish the soldiers, it would be a mass type of a deal, or in front of people, the shame, thing, so to make you straighten up. So everyone I hear, it's like, well, we don't want to take that belt off, that obi, and put it on the nail. But if you don't want to remain, or not remain, but if you don't want to continue to practice and maintain your standards that you already have, then you're not worthy of that rank. You understand how that works, right? They're like, yes. I'm like, well, I don't want to have to hang your belt up until you're worthy to wear it again. And generally that does the trick. The only one that I ever did demote was the individual that I finally kicked out of here. And that was just, just this year, first part of this year.
Yeah.
So, and that was total disrespect to the other practitioners of the school and to me and to my teacher, and it just couldn't, it was either kick them out of the school or kick their teeth out. Mm-hmm. Well, I preferred to do the Budo way, or kick them out of school. But we run this, the name Torakatura Khan, the Khan family. It's very important to us. That family, the practitioners that practice it, the clan, that whole mentality. The things that we do together, the relationship. It's like an extended family. This is not a sport. I don't promote it to be a sport, especially our system. It was never designed, Matsumura, it was never designed as a sport or introduced into the school system to Japan. So, I'm very, very hardcore on keeping the traditions that I was taught exactly the way they were, because who am I to change them? Okay, now I add collateral. Matsumura system is very difficult for children. It's difficult for adults too. So one of the things that I did was I added the Taikyoko katas, because our first katas were the peanuts. And I seen this when I was coming up in the system, that how people would struggle with the 45-degree angles and the back turns and stuff. And it's like, so I went and I talked to Master Keppel, and I had an idea. And I wanted to know, I always ask him before I do anything, like this, do I have your permission? And this is why. And I explained it to him. He thought that was great. Yeah, you can. Just don't take, I can't change our standards or anything, but as long as I, just add collateral stuff, I can make it as difficult or whatever I want. A whole other system on top of it, as long as when I'm promoting people, it's in the Matsumura standards that he taught me.
Right.
And that's great. That's fine. So what I did was I tested this, and I found that with me teaching so many kids, that just teaching them, getting that body change and working the basics, the low, Geidanukis, Jodanukis, Chudanukis, their Seiken, and just the Tai Sabaki, that moving, that in that emblem of flow of that I formation, it's so easy. And it gets them, the parents like it, the kids, I'm getting two things done. I'm pleasing the child, they're not getting bored. I'm pleasing the parents because right away they're seeing, wow, my son or daughter's running a form, okay? Where it'd take them months to be able to get down, like say Pinan Shodan, which when I came up in the system, that was the first kata, Pinan Shodan. And so, I tested that, and I started watching how fast they're getting, they're grasping this, and it's like, okay, this works. Mm-hmm. So we've kept it, and I had to redo the standards a little bit and stretch things out. When when they, okay, you're not going to learn Pinan Shodan as a white belt, you're going to learn it as a yellow belt. But it's not a race. That's what I tell them. I have some students, well, I want to learn this. Well, you'll learn it when you have this down. This is very much as important as that. Basics. And so in this school, we're very big on that. And so back to the nail of shame, it doesn't matter if they're a brown belt, if they're an intermediate, a green belt, or if they're a white belt or a black belt. Standards are, your basics. The basic standards is very much important, because when it hits the fan and you're out on the street, if someone attacks you, all these fancy moves where you're using fine motor skills goes out the window. Mm-hmm. I think that's been pretty much proven. If you look out there, what really saddens me is you can Google and you find karate's like the worst self-defense, and there's all this negative talk about it. And no, it isn't. It's one of the most lethal. It's just the way it's been watered down and being taught. And so one of the things I said with my school is, one of the most important things is we have to remember, and I let the parents know that what they're going to partake in is combat. That is what this is. Now, the Budo aspect of it is very, very strong, and in this school, especially with the young kids, I basically hit it more with that, because that's what's going to gear them towards listening and behaving, and respect, yes or no, sir. Mm-hmm. And then balance and coordination, all these things that come with martial arts they're going to get. But we keep the levels of bunkai very, very, very basic until they hit an age like, generally my 13, 14-year-olds, depending on the child, whether or not we move them up in the bunkai level. We can see some of these kids I've had for 5 years since they were in their single digits, and now they're driving cars. And so, whether they're a good kid at heart, if they're violent, if they're bullying, whatever. And so naturally, I'm not going to teach them anything that's going to, cause them some legal problems and so, but yeah, I'm babbling, but
no, that's fine. Started out being taught by your grandfather.
Yes.
Who was the next person that started teaching you after that?
Kevin Price. No relation to my Sensei Price. He taught Taekwondo in Pekin, down the street from Choi Brothers. He had a gentleman by the name of Audie Aerosmith, who was a Korean that was in there as his assistant. And the building that he was in used to be the Pekin Bow, and I think it was Pekin Bow and Taxidermy until he moved up the street. But that little area, and then it was a pottery place. But back in the day, that was a dojo, a little dojo. And so I trained there for a little bit. Larry Pye, I trained money. We grew up poor in the South End. So, you couldn't train where you really wanted to. And naturally I wanted to throw on a dubak and train in a real school, a dojang, and not in the backyard. But that didn't work out too well. I worked paper routes, paid for my lessons, stayed here 3-4 months, 6 months, whatever. But then really, I call that my molding years, my introductory years. But then when I got into the service, got stationed overseas, Robert Hurt was my sensei. And that was when I think my martial arts really began. That's when you really started training hard, and really forming you at an adult level. Because I could say, well, I've been doing it since 1974 when I was 5, but that's like looking at one of my students and saying, that's 5 years old out there. It's like, what are they really doing? So I don't do that. But, when I was 17, that's when I really started training. That was when I was with the Black Horse Regiment over in Europe. And they had a demo team, and we traveled around doing, on-base and off-base demonstrations and stuff. And the Kumite back then was based on kickboxing rules, full contact, and I think it was a lot easier. I've never really got too much into the point fighting. I think it's a little more difficult. Me, I was a headhunter. I can hit hard. I'd get in there, try to knock a guy out as fast as I could. Tyson him before he even came around, and we've watered it down so much, and I've seen it just in the last decade, to a point where, I tell my students it's great for timing. I want you to do that. I want you to experience that as you're coming up. But if they said, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do it, then I'm not going to hold them back in rank, because I know what we're doing inside the school, and I'm teaching them how to survive out on the street, and playing glorified tag is not going to survive you on the street.
Yeah.
So it's not that important.
But you've competed in point sparring.
Yes, I've done all that, because if you're going to be a teacher, you need to make a little bit of a name and a reputation, and win some national championships and stuff, and so that because that's the other thing, what credentials.
Yeah.
So yes, I did. And the older I get, and now that I'm really full time with my own school and teaching, I was just down there, brought back some trophies from down south, but I'm finding more I don't know if it's because I'm getting a little more, well, I'm trying to think the words I want to use here. I think I get a better feeling than myself winning, but watching my student. That satisfies me more, I think. It's kind of, I guess a lot of teachers would say that. When I see that this is what I've molded, they came to me, they knew nothing, and, over weeks and months and years, and now they're going out there, and I have 2 of my students have won USKK national champion 2 years in a row in their divisions. And when they both came to me, neither one of them, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with these guys? Coordination, they weren't athletic, and it's like, now it's like, wow, and I did that, They did it, but through my teaching.
Yeah, it's a testament to both of you guys.
Yeah.
That you coached them, and then they put in the work to do it.
And so it's like you're a proud parent feeling, I have kids and grandkids, so it's like, whoa, and so that to me, I know what I can do and how long I've trained, but to be able to do that with someone who, comes to you as an adult maybe and was never athletic in school and has a low self-esteem, and you're able to do this, teach them and them to actually go out there and do it and surprise themselves and surprise me. And that right there is like, wow, I've got enough plastic. My wife says they're dust collectors. We brought a lot into the school here, and there's a lot in the attic, and if I ever got another one, I don't care, but I think where I'm at in life now is to make sure that real karate do is taught in my school, because there's so much out there that I don't agree with. And so I want to make sure that I put my little stamp in my little area, in my little pond, that I know that in my heart I did the right thing. I did the way Master Keppel, Master Price, and my teachers have taught me, and that does not die. That continues on through the generations.
Let's dive into that a little bit. I mean, you don't have to mention any names in case you don't want to, but what are you seeing in martial arts that you don't like, that you're trying to make your own mark with?
Well, the biggest thing that I see is I'll tell you right off the bat, I'll tell you one thing I cannot stand is to see people younger than me. I'm 45 years old. And to see people that are 30, 40 years old claiming to be master in this country.
I've seen Grandmaster too.
Oh, well, I was going to get there. I was going to say, and sometimes that's not enough. Now we've got to be a Grandmaster, okay? And it's sickening. And you look at their ability. I've had people that are claiming to be masters come and train with me, and they were not even as good as my intermediate Q ranks. Okay, I have green belts that would have wiped the floor with them, and these people are claiming to be masters and grandmasters. It's ludicrous. It's disrespectful, totally. My teacher is 76 years old. He just got his 10th dan, just got it, and he thought he wasn't even old enough for it. We didn't know if he'd accept it, but I think because so many organizations came from, all the way from New Mexico and California, all over, the people that came together at the 30th International Championships and said, you're going to take this. And they awarded it to him. And he took it. And I got to be there and see this. Now that, I'd say, yep, that's a master. Okay, Master Keppel. Look what he's done. Look at his knowledge. I've trained with the man. Yeah, but to have somebody that's 35, 40 years old and, and then all this, everybody's so fixated on rank. I personally know people that jump from a questionable Shodan to a 6th-degree black belt in one weekend. How do you do that? I ain't mentioning no names, but that really, I feel pity for them. Because the rest of us who are old school, I'm a 2nd-degree black belt in the system. Okay? And you would think, I've had people that the first thing they'll ask you, well, what rank are you? It's not enough I'm a black belt and I'm teaching and you can see how, what rank are you? What level?
Yeah.
They know we have 10 levels, and I'm sure there'll be an 11th. I know Master Kim came out with 11th, so I'm wondering how long in the next decade will some system come out with the 11th,
Yeah, because you go to tournaments and, you see kids that have like 4 degrees on a black belt.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, rank doesn't matter. I personally try to go more on like, well, how many years have you been involved? And you were talking about and hinted at a little bit earlier, even years involved. You don't feel like you've probably been doing this since you were 5. You've been doing this since you were 17 or whatever.
Yeah. And I think I'm right where I should be.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people say, "Oh, wow, if you join our organization, how many years you been doing this? Oh, well, you should be this." No, I shouldn't. My teacher didn't promote me to that. It's not about rank. If I had my say, we'd take the OB off. I tried that. I said I wanted to do that, and I had my teacher, "Oh, no, you can't do that. No, you'll never have any students." Because something's happened, in these generations. You've got to give, look at all these color belts we got. We went from a 5-belt system to a 10-belt or 9-belt, colors. Now you've got gold. That's terrible. Phone ringing. Turn that off. So yeah, it's just what I call false flagging.
Yeah.
Handing belts to people that don't deserve it. In our school, you earn it. And if you don't want to earn it, then there's the door. It sounds rude and crude, but that's the way it is. We're here. We're serious about what we do. And before my name goes on a certificate or you wear an OB out on my deck, you're going to be worthy of it. And that's just the way it is. And I will not bend one iota for that, because I feel in my heart that is, it's disrespectful to the masters that created these systems, and that, here I am, I'm an American, I'm learning an Asian art, and I'm going to water it down for the sake of having students and to make money or whatever, which is another thing that I don't like. Personally, it's America. I'm not too politically correct, those that know me. Being in it for just the money. If I could teach for free, I would. That's why I make sure I have 3 jobs. So that's my livelihood. That's what pays my bills, and that's actually what has paid this dojo, because we charge so little. Because really, I don't think you should have to pay for this. I really don't. And that's why I'm in the back of a bug shop. That's why a lot of people don't know we're here.
Yeah.
I'm not some storefront where everybody can look in the picture window at us and
see
our
all your trophies.
Yeah. We think of it, it's kind of more like a club, and it's a life club, and I'm big in, like I said, into the karate do. What I tell my students are that the greatest opponent you'll face in life, generally, unless you're in a battlefield in combat or something, is yourself. And so the aspect of Budo, of what Funakoshi introduced into Shotokan, was the do for the school kids, so they could extrapolate that into their daily lives. I'm very big on that. We're very big about integrity and honesty and helping fellow man, which is what my mission here. We're real big on with the kids.
Yep.
But what I don't want to do is set them up for failure, which is what I see goes on so much out there. Where when I was a kid, if you sucked at basketball, you probably didn't make the cut. They'd tell you, okay, well, maybe you should go try baseball or basketball, or none of them. Okay, we have a chess club or whatever. Now, anybody gets to play regardless of which way the game goes. If it costs the game, oh well, little Billy or Bobby who can't throw the basketball, dribble it for their life, they still get to do it. It's this politically correct society that me personally feel that it's just destroying the fabric of what this country was founded and based on. How long it'll go on, I don't know. And what we've done is we've introduced that into martial arts, so that now you can have 6-year-olds and 7-year-old and 8-year-old black belts, which is ludicrous. My black belt test is 20 hours of hell, where we try to break you. It will take a very strong abdominal spirit to pass through that gauntlet and to step across the line to a yodansha. It will be, I want to make it the worst experience of your life and the best when I put that belt on you, so you've earned it. I'm combining military with the martial arts. We have, you're running 2 miles, you're doing all the push-ups, the crunches, the physical. We're trying to get into your mind. We're trying to break you down. 20 hours, there's no break in there. I let you go to the bathroom if you have to. We let you take a drink. I don't want you dying, of a heat stroke or dehydrating on me. But it's hard, real hard. And, and I don't bend. I don't bend, not even for my own children. So many times I've seen out there where an instructor has kids, and those kids are already black belts at the age of 12, and they can't even, take care of their uniform right. My daughter's been doing it since she was 5. She's 14, and she's a purple belt, and she's fought hard to get that. And I worry for her. Will she have what it takes? She may not. My son definitely doesn't. So, he's gone on to other things. But so, if I'm going to be that way with my own children, then I'm going to be that way with someone else's children. I don't want to give something for free. I don't want to set them up like what we're doing in life with our kids, that you get everything for free. The best things in life come when you've worked damn hard for them. Okay? And so they work damn hard in the school for what they get. And when it doesn't matter what level, whether it's a yellow belt, whether it's a brown belt or a black belt, when they've earned that, they know they've earned it. Mm-hmm. And they've got something to show for it. And the reality of it is, I've got brown belts in here that could go into any school and they would think he was a high-level black belt. He could fool them like you wouldn't believe. And that's, Eric.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't know. You would think he's got to at least be a third or fourth dime compared to what's out there, He's
got his act together.
He's got his act together.
There's no doubt.
And his son, but he's a national champion in the USKK, but he's a champion in here. His ability, and we throw the mats out and we're going at it. Mm-hmm. He can take care of himself. And so that's what's, very important for me is it's not really, we talk about the tournaments, but whether or not my students go compete, that's supposed to be fun. And, the good thing about it that I think is that you get to meet people from different schools and maybe make friends. And I've always said that the martial arts is a lot like religion. And, coming back to the school here, the reason why I named it the Tora Hakutsura Kan Martial Arts Academy was because we don't just teach karate. I teach karate, but I brought in, as one of your Sifu Aldous Monday night Tai Chuan. So we got Chinese art. We have Taekwondo with Master Kim, Song Kim, which is Master Sue Kim's brother. Is going to be here Wednesdays and Fridays. We've got the Kobudo. We've got various things going on. It is an academy where it's, more than one thing being taught. Mm-hmm. And, I've reached out to you and Metamora, bring the Koshikai in Pekin.
That was a fun night.
Chambara. That is fun. And I realized I suck at it. I had little kids beat me, Reflexes aren't what they used to be.
I got so close. I got so close in the black belt division.
But yeah, one of the things that I'd said that I wanted to do is try to, why do we have to have these divisions amongst the different arts? Okay, you study Japanese art and you study Korean art, but let's come together in unity. We're martial artists. I don't even think in the world population that we even, we don't even register. We're like a dot as far as population that studies this because it's hard. I hate to say it, I ain't politically correct, but a lot of people, especially in this country, are lazy. Too much work. To think that we're going to train 5 and 6 days, much less 2 days a week. I train every day. If I can't train physically, I train in my mind, but every day because it's part of my day. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people out there that's like, oh my God, what are you, a freak? That's real. I couldn't do that. It's like, well, those Michael Jordans and all these, these greats in other sports didn't get what they were at, from just mediocre. They you get what you get. Yeah. Eddie Van Halen couldn't play the guitar like that if he wasn't playing it till his fingers bled every day.
Mm-hmm. He didn't start out playing like that when he was, a kid.
That's right. So, and that's the thing, we've seen it here. I have a lot of testaments here for new students coming in that they can see and hear from people or watch them grow. Other students where they see how clumsy they were or, just you wouldn't think that they'd make it, and all of a sudden, they're brown belts and they're awesome, and so, it's possible if you put the work in, in this realm, you have a lot of, oh my goodness, over the last 5 years, the students I've taught and lost, I can't even think of them all.
Yeah.
Just coming from one place to another, what we lost. But here comes another Christmas party, and we're going to sit there, and I'm going to say, well, the clan that surrounds me is a clan that's been with me for 5 years. And, we have some that has come newer, but these are the right ones for this. That just keep, each year I keep seeing them.
It's almost like a sifter, You just
yes.
put them all in, you sift them, and then whatever's left,
That's
like,
right.
These are the people.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It used to bother me. I used to think, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? And I'm constantly trying to critique myself because you felt it was like a personal hit when someone would leave, And then I talked to my teacher a lot, and he told me all the years, 40, 50 years, I've been teaching, and how many's come and gone. I said, well, is it me, Sensei? And no, it's them. And you can't fix them. You can try, but they got to be willing. You can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink, It's just like I got students in this school. I've got really good students, and I got students that, like I said to start with, you promote them, and then they just kind of like lose interest. They still keep coming, and I'm sure they're going to want, every year we like to do the annual Christmas party, and I save back the people that are due for promotion. Rather than promoting them a week earlier, a month early, we'll just get everybody at the Christmas party, and that's kind of like the grand finale.
Yeah.
I'm afraid this year Santa's bringing coal, unless they can shape up. I give them 3 opportunities over a month to get it cleaned up and that, and if they can't do it, it's sad for me. But I'm sure they're not going to be too happy.
Yeah.
We had that last year, and every single one of them that knew they weren't getting promoted didn't even come to the party. And so then you had to start thinking about that. It's like, we run this like an extended family. We're a clan. We're a group. We spend a lot of time together. And, I want people here for the right reason. Not just for their own self-satisfaction of a color of cloth on their waist, which means nothing. I've told people, when they're asking me, well, how long is it going to take me to make black belt? Well, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
You can go into some schools, oh, well, we got the black belt program, we got this, we got that. Yeah.
You sign the contract for this many years, and you get a belt at the end of it.
And how can they do that, if you're not what we call, that term out there, McDojo. I just heard of that last year, the McDojos.
Yeah.
The belt factories I knew about. Back to things I'm seeing out there, I see a lot of belt factories. I see a lot of McDojos, and I think that maybe, I'm jumping around here, but that came back. So I had something to say on that. I think sometimes you'll have instructors that mean well, were brought up in a good school with a good teacher, but maybe they set their goals too big of a building, locked into too big of a lease, and then that's when you start to see it go awry, and you start to see things that maybe they even see and like, oh, I hate to do that, but we don't want to lose them, and they can't. Maybe that's especially your full-time instructors, if they ain't got another job that's supporting it like I do. If I lose a few students, I don't have to worry because, okay, it's like I just taken on another car loan, but I can afford it with my other job and keep the doors open for everyone. If this was all I did, though, it would have been shut down a while back. Okay.
Now, even money aside, would you want to do this full time? Like, even if you didn't have...
Oh, I'd love... When I retire, I plan to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to build it big enough that... and we're thinking about going to a nonprofit, because what my mission, with the kids, because you got to start young. These are the ones that's going to take care of us when we're old. These are our future leaders, and I think we've proven that the children that start martial arts when they're young and stay with it, they have a better chance out there. They've got that intestinal fortitude, that abdominal spirit that gets them through college, gets them through situations in the work, gets them promoted, gets them to a higher earnings. At least what I saw. I can't recollect any kids that stayed with it that wound up in prison or wound up being on the dole or something. It's because it kind of goes against us as what we, that Budo aspect of what we've learned. So, I'm very much in wanting to teach the kids. And so, I just, met with the superintendents a while back with all 6 of the public schools over here in Morton, and we've launched that free martial arts program, and an introductory deal for 3 months to see if they, it lets me weed out, because I can't have a bunch of troublemakers, and we've had kids come in here and they're bouncing on the walls and stuff, and they're just, this is not for, unlike what the sales pitch goes, martial arts is for everyone. No, it's not. No, it isn't. No more is basketball, no more is, race car driving, skeet shooting, or whatever else in life. It isn't for everyone, or at least maybe not karate. Maybe you're more geared towards judo. Maybe you're geared towards Western boxing or whatever. Maybe you're not geared towards any of that. Maybe you should take piano lessons. But there's a sales pitch out there that, it's for everyone. You're never too old. Now that's bull crap. That's sales pitching it, and we don't do that. I like to get the kids in at least 2 or 3 months. I don't even worry about the money. I want to make sure it's a good fit for them and us, because I want to make sure that we keep a strong bond here in the school. I'm not into politics. You see that out there a lot, and I loathe the politics. There's no reason for it. And so as far as I know, and I keep a watchful eye, we don't have that here. We haven't grown that big. I think we only have about 27 students now, or so we're small potatoes.
Yeah.
But
hey, it's a little bit bigger than I think the last time.
Yeah.
I was over here the last time we talked, so
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, we're picking them up, and I've had quite a few come in, and we had 3 in the last couple weeks that I told them what we expected and everything, and they never showed back up. But then some of the Hispanic community around here, they've been coming in, and they like it. So I've picked up a couple girls that seem to be, they're just picking it up. And they seem to have that drive and that work ethic, and they're young children, but that we look for, So yeah, it's a hit and a miss type thing.
Yeah.
And so and you look at how many out of all the students we've got now, how many are going to be here in 5 years? How many are going to be here in 10 years? How many are going to make black belt? And actually start their training, because that's the other thing. I squash the delusion that the almighty black belt, just to get that color, that's the final goal. No, that's the beginning. The analogy I use is, think of it, you're underwater. As a Q rank, you are underwater. As you move up the Q ranks to the colors, you're moving up a few leagues under the sea, and you want to get your head above water so you can breathe. That is your yodancha. And then from there, you can crawl upon the land, and you move up into the buildings, and
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I like that.
So it's a nice way of putting it. You bottom feeding maggots. You don't want like a military. But this perception that the black belt that's the goal. No, that's the beginning. And so they learn that real quick. And there'll be times like, I did that not too long ago. It's like, okay, take your belts off. Now, you all know that I'm the black belt, I'm the teacher, and you all know that, we had one of our other black belts. Okay, so you're going to run with us. And I let them, and their brain starts smoking, and they can't. And it's like, okay, so, you understand? Yeah. It's not there yet. The black belt is in the mind. It's like the one good thing that come from the Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi said, he points to the head, or to the, he said, karate is never here, or... No, karate's here, to the head, to the heart. Karate never here, to the waist. Very true. Very true.
I had a real hard time when I was in high school and I was doing martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
and because for me, I was of that attitude where I'm like, oh man, black belt, like that's where I want to get to. That's it right there. And then I kept training, and like now I look back years later, I'm like, man, how did I think that? It's so weird, because the stuff that I've learned since then has just been, way superseded anything that I learned as a Q rank.
That's right.
And it's crazy to think about.
Yep. Well, that's, and that's it. We got to get, We got all those belt colors to get our standards down, our basics, so that we can do the good stuff, the meaty stuff, get to the substance. The fun stuff. And, the first thing my teacher said, he goes, okay, you made your black belt. Now you can slow down and really sink in and think about what you've been doing all this time and really perfect it and get it working. And that rush, and I had that too. Everybody does. You want to make the black belt. But it seems like once you get there, once you make Shodan, actually, okay, I'm here, I'm on the other side of the fence, I'm here, I'm this, I think, I did start to slow, you did start to slow down, and you didn't feel like you were such in a race, because, as a brown belt, at least for me, brown belt, man, you're on your toes all this time. It's one of the hardest divisions, because you're trying to prove to your teacher and to yourself and everybody that I got what it takes. And once you make Shodan, it seems like I don't say we get lazy in that, but we slow down and we look back and you're like, wow, I made it this far. And it's like, okay, now where? And then when we look and we go, whoa, I got to make it all the way up to 10th Dan. That's never going to happen.
But first degree is I still think. Is a great place to look at. Yeah. When you're a Q rank, you're like, yep, that's where I want to get to.
Yep.
But then you just have to get to that point where you're like, that's a good place to look at for now. Mm-hmm. But, in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, you want to be looking beyond that a little bit more.
Well, my analogy is like the race. As a Q rank, you're working out, you're learning all this stuff, you're getting what it takes to make it to the marathon. Don't quit before you get there, because you've worked so hard. Why would you stop? The race is starting. Once you make it to Shodan, you're right there at the starting line, getting ready with the race, and so and as you move on, and the mile markers, that you can did you make it the 26-mile marathon, or you where you at, so. That's something that's confused me before, when you'd see someone who's a brown belt or say a red belt in the Korean arts or whatever, and they drop out. It's like, oh my God, you were almost to the starting line, the beginning, the real training, and you quit.
Put in all that work.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. But people do weird things, and sometimes there's extenuating circumstances that cause them to have to quit. But a lot of times it's just because they. And I know one personally, and, I counsel people, and he's not even in karate, he's not even one of my students, but, and I see what his teacher sees, but to keep him as a friend, I won't say nothing, but he's so upset that he's been a certain rank for like 2.5, 3 years and hasn't been promoted to black belt yet. And it's like, a lot of times you have to dig, the teacher sees something within you. You got to have what it takes. It's more than just fancy moves and being able to do the basics. It's also the internal aspect of the art. And so there are some people that, I agree, should never make it to that level until they can conquer the demons within and build that internal martial art. So I don't know where to go from there. You got any questions?
How do people get a hold of you if they want to come by and check out some of your classes sometime?
Well, they can. We're online. www.torahakutsurakan.com. That stands for Tiger White Crane Clan. We're on Facebook. Same thing. Torahakutsurakan Martial Arts Academy. They can call. The later classes is a more advanced, so it's whenever we get out of here. But generally, we're out of here by 9. 6 o'clock for the beginners. And then on Saturday, 10 to 11:30, and on Sunday we have a 2 to 4, and that's open to everybody, and that's a really good class, So, yeah, plenty of days that they can train. We charge $55 a month, and that you can train as many, but the minimum is 2 days that I require. I don't know about the other instructors and their systems, and then with the Taekwondo, Wednesdays and Friday from 6 to 8, and I don't, I don't know what they require.
Right.
I would assume, since they're 2 days a week, that they require 2 days a week. And see, we got Tuesday. Yeah. We used to have more days, but then I found that people weren't coming, and it didn't pay to have the lights on and drive all the way over here. So we cut it down to when the classes was full. And so that's Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So that's what we're doing. And, we are growing slowly. We love to have, we love to have other styles come in too. We're looking forward to doing some stuff. We're going to have some Krav Maga with Kelly O'Keefe. He's going to be coming over doing a workshop. I think Mr. Price is going to be doing one. We have, between me and the Kim Aldis and Steve Aldis, with self-defense classes. I was supposed to be launching one in the fall. It was requested, and then we've just been so busy because we've only been in here 4 months, and from an empty warehouse to what it is now, it's been a lot of work. But trying to throw in a self-defense class, wasn't in the picture yet. So, and I think the Aldises, they did one or was going to do one. I think they're going to repost and try it again. We'd like to get it out to the community that we're here. A lot of it, times I hear, we didn't even know you were here, because we're not out there advertising. We do have a website, but we're not out there advertising. We're not on the radio all the time. We're not doing commercials because we don't have the cash to do that. And I probably wouldn't do it if I did, So it's kind of a word of mouth thing. Search and you will find. And I think you'll be happy you found us. Everyone that's come here so far that stayed this is what they were looking for. And it makes me feel good, especially this gentleman that I just got from Europe who's trained old school. He's trained in the belt factory and left, and he's trained old school in Europe and came up hard, and he came here and said, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been missing. And it lets me know I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Okay.
This is great.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thanks once again, Mr. Schell, for being on the show. Now let's get into some plugs and upcoming events. Friday, December 12th, I'll be at Kickin' for Christmas in Fairbury, Illinois, and that's co-hosted by my friends Eddie Parker and Michael Brand. Part of the participation fee goes toward getting kids Christmas presents. So if you're listening to this podcast and you don't go to this event, I'll just assume that you hate martial arts and kids and Christmas, all three. You're a freaking Grinch. But for more info on that, check it out on Facebook at Kickin' for Christmas. That's Kickin' with no G and an apostrophe in the whole thing. And that's it, really. If you have any more events for me to plug and advertise here, shoot me an email at adam.bockler@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this month's show. As always, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or via RSS at adambockler.com. And hey, while you're at it, like the Martial Arts Podcast on Facebook. Thanks again to Sensei Matthew Schell for being our guest this month. Thanks to BJ Averly for the music. And thank you for listening to me, Adam Bockler, on the Martial Arts Podcast.